y'all, this is Michelle from Celtic Wind Farm, and today we are going to learn one of the probably easiest recipes you'll ever learn, and it's one step closer to being more independent from the food chain, even though you see here that I have some products that I actually had to get from the store, but we all do this in increments. We start where we are at, and independence comes one step at a time. So we will cover all of that. What we're going to make today is creme fraiche. It's actually a type of French sour cream, but you don't tell the French it's sour cream because they'll get upset about it. They consider it different than sour cream, but it is actually very similar, and it's used like sour cream, and I actually prefer it to American sour cream. And this was invented before pasteurization, and it was a way to extend milk and to have a different variety of dairy. And once you learn how to do this, you will probably never buy sour cream from the store again, unless it's an absolute emergency because you forgot to make it the night before you needed it. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. There's more complicated versions of this where you heat the buttermilk and the heavy whipping cream to a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. And yes, that does probably hasten the speed of fermentation for your final product, but I find is absolutely not necessary. So this is just a very quick and easy way to build up your confidence with dairy, and to start providing things for your family and not rely on the store as much. We have buttermilk, and yes, it's from the store. Make sure that it's cultured. We can't have any dead food in our live food because it doesn't work. It's much healthier, and it's not going to culture if you have buttermilk without the live cultures in it. This is only going to be 1/4 of a cup that we're going to use. This is what's going to start the fermentation process. You don't have to have this. If you have whey, which is the byproduct of cheese making, you can use 1/4 a cup of whey. You can use 1/4 a cup of white vinegar. You can even use wild yeast, which is something we'll talk about making later. So you can get as independent with this as you want. You start out with what you have, and then as your skills build and your confidence builds, then you can start going hardcore independent from the food chain, whether that means having your own dairy animals or meeting people at the farmer's market who that will sell you product to do this. Local's best for everything, and we'll always be talking about that. But right now, just starting, store stuff, we got to learn this skill, so get what you need to get. We're going to do 1/4 a cup of the buttermilk, and measurements don't have to be exact. This is not an exact science here. So we're going to put it in a clean mason jar, and this is a good size to start with. This lasts a while for my family, and it's good for 2 weeks. We've actually stretched it longer than that in our family, and it was still delicious. But I say, you know, smell and taste test for everything. Don't just start eating away. Just make sure it's good before you do that. But around 2 weeks though, you need to start looking at it carefully when you use it, just to make sure it hasn't gone bad. And so now we have the heavy whipping cream, and we're going to go ahead and pour that in there. And you want to give room for expansion of the creme fraiche. It's okay, pup. So you don't want to go straight up to the very top. So I'm going to leave a little headroom there. And of course, you always make sure all your utensils are clean. Nothing sterile, you know, that's almost impossible in the home, but definitely clean. And then you're just gonna milk it, or not milk it, you're gonna stir it real well. And you may be thinking, well, I have goats, and so why aren't I using goat cream? Well, I have made some sour creams with fresh goat milk, and they were decent, but I prefer the heavy, thick, custard-like cream that this makes. And plus, to get the cream off of the goat's milk, you need a cream separator, which I will have eventually, but right now I don't have that. You can, if you're patient enough, let the goat milk sit in the refrigerator and separate after a bit, but you gotta gather small bits of it off the top until you have enough, and that takes a while. So we've mixed it very well, and we're gonna put a nice clean lid on it. And guess what? All you have to do now is wait. You want to give it at least 24 to 36 hours. I wouldn't go too much beyond that. If you have a hotter home, it's going to take a little less time. If you have a colder kitchen where you're going to keep this, then it's going to take a little longer for the fermentation. But this is so much healthier for you than store-bought. It has the live lactobacillus in it. It's good for the gut, good for the immune system, tastes way better. I know the French use it on fruit, pastries. So far I've used it more traditionally, like on tacos and omelets and stuff like that, but I'm wanting to dip it in with strawberries and see how that goes. But we're just going to tuck this away in the cupboard where it's nice and dark, and we're just going to ignore it for about 24 hours, and then I will check it and make sure it's the consistency and taste that I like. And then if it is, then I will put it in the fridge, and that'll, you know, be it. All we have to do is enjoy it. If it's not quite there on consistency and taste, I can leave it a little bit longer. So that is it, my friends. Dairy independence, step number 1. Hey guys, I also wanted to add to the video that this book helped me build my dairy confidence tremendously. I was very nervous about starting to make cheese and fermented dairy and all that. I just was scared to jump into it. It seemed very complicated. This book broke it down easily, and it builds on your skills. It starts out easy, and then the recipes get more complicated, and it just helps so much. I don't know the author. I've never met her personally. I'm not getting paid anything for this, but this book is a really good first step to making all your own dairy.
Several days later.
Okay guys, we are back with our European style sour cream, and I have a little confession to make. I forgot about it, and I left it in a bit longer than I usually leave it in the cupboard, and I thought, well, maybe I need to throw it away, and then I thought, no, I'll check it out and do the smell, look, and taste test and see how that goes, because I've read that in France they sometimes will let this ferment for 4 or 5 days or whatever. But you know, being from modern times, we tend to get very scared of ferments, and especially with dairy and stuff. Please excuse all the sounds here. My puppies are going crazy. And so I decided I would give it a try and see how it turns out. And another thing I wanted to tell you too is that I've read in accounts of authentic creme fraiche, how they do it in France and Europe. They talk about how it can be used as a dessert cream, and it's almost like ice cream. And I made the recipe with the shorter ferment, and I thought it was absolutely amazing, the best sour cream I'd ever had. Well, now, after me messing up and letting this go a couple days longer than usual, I got a crazy surprise here. It is the texture of ice cream, and it tastes amazing. And it, you know, I've never been to France and had their creme fraiche, but just based on the descriptions I've read, it actually is closer to what you read the French describing creme fraiche as. So I was pretty amazed by that. So what I'm going to do here, I love stevia. We try to cut back on sugar, so we use stevia. And they say in France they use it as a dessert cream as well as like a regular sour cream, and they put it on all sorts of breads, pastries, fruits. So let's see what we got. Oh wow, that is absolutely amazing. And I just can't believe that I just stumbled on this by messing up and not watching my ferment as closely. So like I said though, you always use your common sense when you're dealing with ferments. If anything looks off color, if it tastes funky, has a horrible smell, then please don't use it. So, you know, look at it, smell it, and do a tiny taste. And then if all that's good to go, you're good to go. And this is absolutely amazing. And I really hope you guys give it a try because it was very easy. And another thing too, it can separate and have a little whey like at the bottom there. And that's perfectly fine. You can either mix it up with it or discard it or whatever. So thank you guys. This turned out great and I really hope you give it a try. Thank you.